Salam alaikum.
Are you gonna have a camera?
Yeah, give me a sec.
All right, there we go. Oh, it's
Bear with me here.
okay. All right.
Pop you on my screen as well. Give me a moment.
Sure, man.
How are you, by the way?
Good.
Swell. All right. Come on. Where are you? Sorry, they don't pay me for my tech abilities here. Boom. There we go. There we go. Now we're both on screen. Sweet. Can you do me a massive favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to scare you. Can you grab me some water? Thanks so much. Hi.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good. Okay, so you're a Muslim. I'm an atheist.
I'm not. That was a joke.
You're a joke. Are you a theist?
That was a joke. I'm agnostic actually.
You're agnostic. That's even worse. Why would you tell me you're a Muslim, bro?
Because it was funny.
It's not really funny.
It's hilarious, actually.
Okay.
I can't believe it lasted for that long. That was nuts.
What
You legitimately thought I was a Muslim. You thought you were going to have a debate about the Quran tonight.
No, I mean when you say I'm a Muslim, I mean what, you want me to just be like, oh, I guess I should know about you and your opinions and stuff. Okay, so.
Fair.
So you disagree with me about anti-theism on the topic of what? Like I'm supposed to fucking have context for you? That's such a like. So we've started this conversation conversation already, and so you've lied to me about who you are.
I've lied.
Yes, that's
lied to you.
That's correct.
And your audience, everyone.
So
we were just covering a whole manifesto. Lies.
So you lied.
Lies are my stock in trade.
So and on Twitter, like multiple times, you were really poor faith. So I would love to understand what your position is in regards to anti-theism.
Anti-theism? I have no objection to anti-theism. No, the issue I was objecting to had to do with these statements here. So I'll read them out for you, and I'll give you a chance to restate if you wouldn't mind, because I think you were probably heated and defensive in the moment. I want to be fair. So you say here, quote, there are no, quote-unquote, indigenous Christians in America. They were colonized and indoctrinated. This is a well-published tactic by the church. I think you're saying this in the present tense. There are no indigenous Christians.
There are people who are of indigenous bloodlines who are also Christian, yeah.
Okay, that's
so you have like a semantic issue?
In a moment.
Amazing.
And then the other one was black Americans are, in the present tense, religious because they were indoctrinated into it by their slave owners historically. And it was a sociological claim. I agree.
Yeah,
the preponderance of black churches in America, that's obviously to do with the history of slavery. But in light of the previous one, there are no indigenous Christians in America in the present tense.
That's correct. There are no indigenous Christians in America.
That's an interesting statement, since there are very clearly indigenous people who are Christians.
Right, but they're not indigenously Christian. Like what a semantic argument. So your argument
what does
here
it mean
is
for someone to be indigenously Christian?
Right. So is it indigenous to their land that Christianity came to them? Like, is it part of their culture that Christianity became fruitful in
their culture?
Yes.
Well,
is it part of an indigenous American culture to be Christian?
Huh.
And the answer is, of course, no.
Well, of course not, but that's a far cry from saying
right. Of course, so we don't have a disagreement.
Right? No, but indigenous people. No, but do you think that you know better?
Yes.
Do you think that you know better about what indigenous Christians' beliefs actually are than they do?
What do you mean?
Well, it's a strange thing to say that they aren't actually Christian because it doesn't emerge.
What do you mean? I didn't say they aren't actually Christian.
Pre-contact.
That's stupid. I didn't say they aren't actually Christian.
That's a direct quote. There are no indigenous Christians in America.
There are no Christians that achieved Christianity through indigenous means.
But by that logic, there's no indigenous Christians in Europe.
What do you mean? There
Christianity originates in Palestine. It's not indigenous to.
That's correct. Yep.
But you're responding to someone saying there are devout Christians who are indigenous.
Yes. You're not understanding what I'm saying. Like it's so fucking weird that this is sliding off.
No,
your brain.
Well, it just seems like such a pointless thing to say. Then there are no indigenous Christians who are also part of a religious system that is pre-contact.
I think you need to do a better job of like listening to what I'm saying to you, right? Like
reading. This is typed.
You're doing a terrible job. The people who are indigenous to America.
Yeah.
So we would describe them as Native American. They become from many different tribes, and this would include not just North America, but Central and South as well.
Sure.
None of those people are Christian through indigenous means.
Well, of course not, but that goes
That's
without
right.
saying.
So you don't disagree. It doesn't go without saying because you disagree with me about it for some fucking reason.
But it does because you were
God,
responding
you're
to someone saying.
Oh my God.
You were responding to someone saying the indigenous people know that well and are quite pissed off about it. They are also devout Christians many times. And you reply by saying there are no indigenous Christians in America. They were colonized and indoctrinated, which is
correct.
True, but that is not
That
is
is
not to say that they
true.
aren't indigenous Christians.
So you
It's
have
also-
a semantic
you're also-
issue with the sentence.
Well, it's not. Well, not
Jesus
merely
fucking
semantic. It's
Christ.
also not merely semantic.
So do you
actually
disagree
historical
with
as well.
what I said then? So do you disagree?
I do. Well, I do, as a matter of fact. Are you familiar, for example,
What
with
is
the
the
Diaries of
disagreement?
Matt Turner? I was about to explain. Are you familiar, for example, with the Diaries of Matt Turner?
No.
No. Are you familiar?
No.
Well, the reason why that comes to bear is because Matt Turner is a person who had a religious vision, a Christian one, in fact. And then, as a consequence of this, went on a killing spree of
I'm not
white
surprised.
Americans, slave owners.
Quebec, I think.
So it's actually not entirely the case either that Christianity was even strictly the purview of white slavers, even if it was introduced that way.
What do you mean?
Because the result.
Because you can conceive of not. So you can conceive of Christians that aren't slavers. So that the predominant society, you agree that Christianity.
No, because there are strains of Christianity
So you
that are
would do-
themselves.
so you agree
there are
that
strains of Christianity that are themselves black,
You agree that the
distinctly black, actually.
You agree that the culture that created slavery was a Christian one,
The culture that created slavery.
like Western chattel slavery.
You're talking about the transatlantic. I
Dude,
mean,
are you fucking serious?
it's a little bit-
Can we
well-
talk colloquially, please? Do I
Well,
have
we
to
can
say the
talk specifically.
transatlantic slave trade when we're talking about this topic? Like we've already established
fair.
what
fair.
region
We are
we're
talking about the
in.
transatlantics. We are talking about the transatlantic.
This is what I'm
slave
talking
trade.
about, man.
So, in the transatlantic slave trade, are you aware, for instance,
Yeah.
of the fact that there was actually a concerted effort to prevent slaves from actually becoming Christian, precisely
Yes, there
because.
was, and then there was also the opposite. This was a political disagreement that the culture had.
But it wasn't simply a political disagreement
It was.
between whites, though. It was also black people who were themselves Christian and used that as the basis
I don't make a
themselves
distinction
of
between
resistance.
black or white people. That's racist. Like what?
When you're talking about the history of slavery, you are, because they treated each other as distinct groups. Yes.
Like, so you're talking about the. You're talking about.
You seem very angry. We could just.
I'm
talk,
angry.
you know?
I'm angry at you.
You're
because
actually the least annoying person, believe it or not, that I've dealt with this week. I'm actually inclined
You're the
to just
most
talk.
annoying person I've dealt with this week. So, the reason that I'm annoyed by you is
I
because
get that a lot.
I'm not fucking surprised because you're autistically focused on like semantic syntax structure of like what I'm saying.
I am devoted to precision.
And it's
That matters to
so
me a
fucking
lot.
brain dead. Like it actually isn't productive at all. This is why people don't fuck with
Okay.
you. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like this right
Is that
here.
why? Is that why your views are down to like 5K video now? You used to be doing a lot better. What happened?
Like what? What? Do you see what I'm saying? Like
I don't know. Yeah, it seems like
this
seems
seems
like
irrelevant to the
you've gotten-
conversation. It sounds like
Well, no,
like now
I think
it sounds like now you're
I think
upset.
what it indicates. No, not upset at all. I think what it indicates though is that people are kind of annoyed by the shtick.
It's not a
I think
shtick.
you've gotten
The
I think
shtick,
you've gotten sloppy and you're pissing people off without giving anything back for
the
it.
shtick of trying very hard to dissect the sentence into being incorrect is crazy when you agree with me.
I don't have to dissect it into being correct. It's factually incorrect on its face.
It's not factually incorrect
I have to give you
that
a tremendous
indigenous populations in America did not reach Christianity through indigenous means. It was colonization
Well,
and indoctrination.
obviously not, but neither-
Obviously, and that's what I'm saying in a
Obviously not, but-
sentence. And
Well,
you
obviously
agree
not,
with that,
except-
and I'm
except
saying
when we're
it now.
talking- Except when we're talking in present tense. So conceive of this.
Present tense, yes.
Yeah, conceive of this.
Absolutely.
Conceive of this.
That's
so an indigenous man has a child.
Correct. Indoctrinated
Yeah.
into.
Indoctrinated into Christianity.
Yeah.
Indigenous child has a child themselves.
Indoctrinated,
Goes to
yeah.
university. Leaves Christianity.
Okay, but was
Goes to school,
indoctrinated
has
into
a child,
Christianity. So foundational.
Has a child. I'm not done yet. Has a
Okay.
child.
Yeah.
Not indoctrinated to Christianity.
Sure.
Raised by an atheist. Goes to school. Is an atheist.
Yep.
Has a child. Is converted in school. Goes to a church. Is now a Christian. Are they now not a Christian who is indigenous? See, the issue
What do
with
you
what
mean?
you're
No,
doing.
this is no. Nope. The issue with what you're doing is denying the systemic issue.
Are you going to allow me to finish a sentence without you spazzing out?
What are you talking about? You finished multiple sentences. This is a paragraph you're saying, and I'm going to talk about the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm making an argument that's longer than 2 grunts long, yeah.
Well, the argument here is foundationally incorrect, and this is the spot where I'm going to stop it because it's incorrect.
Okay.
Okay. So you have initial indoctrination when you have Christianity invade any sort of cultural space. Most of the culture is Christian. You can't be unaffected by that if you have a dad that was a Christian or an atheist, and then now you convert later on. That isn't not indoctrination. Even the atheist child, like you had this person that deconverted in college. That person has still been indoctrinated. You already have beliefs that you don't even realize are inherent to your religious culture, such as misogyny is a great example.
Misogyny is not the distinct purview of Christianity.
No, it's not. Patriarchy, for example, then, which is...
Well, I mean, for example...
Patriarchy enacts misogyny on people, and that's how it works. So, like...
But you understand the problem, though. You're responding to people who are saying there are indigenous people who are Christians, and your retort is to say they are not Christians indigenously, therefore there are no indigenous or black Christians. But that's clearly not the case. There are clearly black and indigenous people who are Christians.
Right, and they aren't so indigenously. They are so through the practice of colonialism.
What does it mean, though, to be a Christian? What does it mean, though, to be a Christian indigenously?
Didn't you talk to Beckett recently? You remind me of a... Didn't you talk to Beckett about patriarchy? Is that you? Someone's mentioned that you did. Have you? I talked to him?
I have. Yes.
Okay. So, do you understand the foundational the argument that I was making to Beckett about patriarchy? Because it sounded like you agreed with me, right?
I couldn't, for the life of me, recall. I know that Beckett was wrong.
Oh, okay. So, these are the same. Religion and patriarchy work in much the same way. They're cultural systems that...
certainly they do, but there is a far cry from saying that the preponderance of people who are religious in a given place is the consequence of the history of slavery, and saying that
literally it has to... consequentially, it is the consequence
people of a
slavery.
specific ethnic description, well, not necessarily, actually.
Yes, necessarily in the United States.
No, not necessarily.
Our history is not... We can't decouple it. It's impossible. Yes, that's...
You don't need to decouple it. There's a simple statistical fact. The number of people who trace their ancestry to slavery, I think, is roughly 80%. That leaves roughly 20% of black people in America who do not trace their ancestry to slavery.
Right.
And even then, within those, there are people who are going to have gaps in their lineage,
and
but they have been cut off
from the religious
lineage that brought them to that point.
Are you going to blow your mind? Okay. So,
yes.
So black people that don't have like direct lineage to Western chattel slavery are still victims of colonialism.
Sure.
Okay. So,
but that does not mean that they are not actually Christians either.
What do you mean they're
not
actually?
They're not
I'm not
religious.
saying anyone's not actually
more
religious.
More to the point. You actually said
that.
something very. You actually said very explicitly. I can show it on the screen. Black Americans are religious because they were indoctrinated into it by their slave owners.
Correct.
Yeah, they were religious, of course.
You just said 80%. Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So black Americans who were
So you're actually factually wrong on 2 counts. They were religious before they were enslaved, and only 80% of them traced their ancestry to slaves.
So the bulk.
So when you say categorically that black Americans are religious because they were indoctrinated into it by their slave owners, you're wrong.
No, you're appealing to
the matter, I'm afraid.
No, you're appealing to 20th or 19th century immigrants from fucking like Kenyan immigrants that came over here on purpose, not through like. Do you see what I'm saying?
Didn't make the present tense statement that black Americans categorically are religious because they were indoctrinated into it by their slave owners.
Right, because see, this is what you're doing the thing again where you're like, well, on technicality, you can't say anything with 100%. If I say anything,
being on a technicality is being correct.
No. If I say anything with even a smidge of hyperbole, it's apparently
that's not hyperbole. That's the nature of categorical statements is they're either true or they're false.
You know what I mean when I say black Americans who descend from slaves?
You don't say who descend from slaves.
Holy
you say Black Americans are religious.
Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying?
By their slave owners.
Black Americans.
You're actually incorrect on a third count. You're actually incorrect on a third count.
technicality because you have to
not even a technicality.
Sentence.
Actually, a really critical
Dude,
point.
You're so fucking
incorrect.
bad faith.
You're incorrect.
Listen
on a
to
third
the
count.
sentence I'm saying though.
You're incorrect.
That's not
I'm
my
reading
claim.
it on screen.
Okay, so
I'll
the
put it on
claim
screen for you.
Sure, the claim that I'm making right now that you already agreed with. Are you gonna engage?
I'm listening to you. I'm waiting for you to finish your sentence.
Dude, this is so fucking lame.
Are you trying to buy time? I thought you were about to say something.
I'm not trying to buy time. I'm trying to
Let's hear it.
So, do you understand the claim, the argument that I'm making in general? Instead of having to go to Twitter, where I obviously need brevity to communicate with people, I'm not going to qualify every fucking tweet with time frames.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14,
like, this is
15,
actually
16,
how
17,
you
18.
argue?
18 words long. You actually have a few more characters.
This is
though.
actually how you
Black
argue.
Americans categorically are religious.
Right, so I have to fill out 140 characters on the tweet or whatever it is, 280.
Well, you could say this. You could say the preponderance of black churches is
but I
the
didn't
result
say that.
of the indoctrination by slavery.
I didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that. That would have been a correct thing to say. What you said was
No,
wrong.
it would have been a fucking autistic
and you're actually
thing to
wrong.
say that
you're actually wrong on a third point.
To. You're
look,
wrong
if the autistic
on every
people,
point.
Look, Jake, if the autistic people are more correct than you, then I will bear that cross. But more to the point, you're actually incorrect on a third. You were incorrect on a third point.
Faith, my dude.
You were incorrect on a third point.
You're
Jake.
incorrect.
I'm damn disappointed. I was hoping we would just have a conversation, but you were actually incorrect on a third point. And the third point you were incorrect
just want me to
upon,
write paragraphs so that I'm technically correct on every point.
I would love to finish my sentence if you wouldn't mind.
Holy fucking
You were incorrect
shit.
You were incorrect on a third point.
Okay.
And that, as a matter of fact, it's not simply the case that people that slaves were indoctrinated to Christianity by their slave masters, because in fact there was a large movement to ban them from doing so. This is also part of the reason why they restrict
we just
literacy
talked about this. That you can conceive of people.
But I wasn't finished speaking.
Okay, so we agree that there was a minority of.
Can I finish my sentence, please?
We agree.
Would that hurt you so much?
Is the answer. We agree that
we
agree that a minority of Christians did not want black people to be Christian because they found
not a minority. Not a minority at all.
Yes, a minority.
No, this was sufficient to get it into law.
In
there were
some
limitations strict.
Oh my god, dude! The majority position throughout the history of America became to transition black slaves into Christianity and indigenous people as a means to pacify and inoculate them to Western cultural norms. Like, this is a well-tread.
Well, you've actually got the causality backwards, because actually originally they were mixed race churches, and then as a consequence of them being afraid of black people getting the tales of liberation of an enslaved people from the Bible,
there were some people that made that argument. That's true.
Not just some people who made that argument. This is the reason why there were laws put in place on black people not being able to become ministers. There was a deep fear about this. This was
that
widespread.
was true in some places, yes. But
There's
that is
a
not what
wonderful book
happened. What happened was that black people became indoctrinated through generational proximity to the practice, as they were owned and operated by white Christians throughout the history of their presence in America.
Because, well, it's true.
And the
it's true, the
schools
proximity.
that they had to go to.
Well, it's true the proximity. Well, it's true the proximity of black slaves to Christianity was the consequence of the transatlantic slave trade. Once there, it's not simply the case that there was simply a straight line from them to being indoctrinated into the nature of present Christianity today.
Correct. It was more complicated. A lot of that was
not just more complicated. A lot of it played a critical part actually in resistance movements. And to say afterwards, despite these themselves being
this is crazy.
An amalgamation,
to say
I wasn't finished speaking.
Hold on, no. I know you weren't finished speaking because you made another incorrect claim. You made another incorrect claim, and I have to address it.
No, I didn't.
You did make an incorrect
claim. No, I didn't.
Go ahead.
Them being an amalgamation of traditional religious practices from where they were taken from, and Christianity as well. It's not correct to say that these churches and these religious movements were strictly the result of indoctrination by colonialism.
It's crazy to say that because they were forced to adopt Christianity into their native religious practices in order to make
they actually did so as a matter of resistance. It wasn't simply they were forced to. In fact, they were forced not to in some cases.
I mean, it was both.
You're not following
right?
what I'm saying.
They had to. There were a lot of For instance, the musicality is one. The cooking is another.
Actually, the musicality was a critical point that actually came from black culture. That's one of the things.
Correct.
Well, I'm not sure what you were responding to then, because that seems to serve what I was saying.
Man, I actually don't think you're capable of having a truly productive conversation if you're not willing to understand.
I think you're a little slow tonight. Maybe you should put the corn cob outfit on. Maybe that'll speed you up a little bit.
Like, it's just bad faith, man. It's just bad faith. Like, you're just trying to do little gotcha thingies, and it's like...
I actually wasn't. I was actually trying to have an intelligent conversation.
You are not having an intelligent conversation. You are having
This is correct. I'm not.
You are having a...
I'm disappointed. I was hoping to.
Yeah. You are having a conversation about the precision of speech on Twitter, and it's just fucking crazy.
Well, yeah, because when you say something wrong, the issue there is with precision. You've missed the correct statement.
But that's not what the argument was that I was having. People were not... You are the one person out of the people that are disagreeing with me on technicality. Everybody else that I have a discussion with, including...
Well, that's not a technicality.
It literally is technicality that you're like, well, 20%, like...
No. The 20% is just one of the ways in which your statement is incorrect. If you're going to say that black people in America are religious as a consequence, and you don't even say Christian at this point, you just say religious. If you're saying they're religious strictly, and that's wrong. If you're saying they're religious strictly as a consequence of colonialism, no, because slaves were religious long in advance of being... the tribes from which slaves were captured were religious long in advance of contact with
we're not talking about
people encountered Christianity without ever coming to Europe or North America who were black.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
so,
when you say
black Americans, you are deeply incorrect. I am sorry, my friend.
Only if you have this, like, semantic perspective on it, where you're like, well, technically...
Well, that's not semantic. That's
really
actually an essentially wrong claim.
It's not.
You're actually in defiance of both... You're in defiance of both history and sociology. You're just wrong.
It is not in defiance of either of those disciplines to acknowledge what you have already acknowledged to me. You are simply upset about...
What have I acknowledged to you, Jake?
The effects of colonialism upon...
The effects of colonialism do not counteract the agency of black people today.
Agency? Do you want to talk about agency in regards to religious belief? Because there is none.
Of course there is.
You cannot...
In fact, the very liberal notion that the magistrate... In fact, the very liberal... I was about to speak, please. Can I? Just without interruption for a minute. The very liberal notion that it's not the place of the magistrate to dictate religious truth is itself downstream from the Christian idea that without sincerity of belief, salvation is not attained. This is the entire premise of John Locke's letter concerning toleration.
I appreciate.
And so likewise, unfortunately, and this is why the white slavers were very loath to let black slaves learn about the details of Christian religion.
Unceremonious dump. I agree.
Unfortunately, it's simply not the case that
I honestly cannot.
There is no freedom of agency in Christianity.
You're too monotone.
That's not true, or in Islam for that matter. Yeah. They have agency and the capacity to choose and to think freely, just like you do, even though they're not white, Jake.
So I appreciate the insinuation, my dude. Very good faith. Very constantly good fucking faith, dude. So you do not have any agency as a child when you are indoctrinated into religious belief. It's not met.
The example I gave was of someone who's converted in college.
Converted in college as you live upon Christian hegemony, and you are...
Jake, you live upon Christian hegemony.
That's correct.
Are you more free than a black person?
Why you? It's interesting that you frame it as a black person, because I have simply never made a racial claim.
Well, do you believe there are no religious people, period, then? Or are you highlighting black and indigenous people in particular?
No. That's not what I said. I said that you can't achieve religious belief with like rational thought.
Let me quote again. Black Americans are religious because they were indoctrinated into it by their slave owners. So, but I mean, all of us are the way in which we come to our present beliefs about anything. They're the consequence of our past experiences, the conditions in which we are raised, etc., etc.
Some of these things are met rationally.
In particular, as not being capable of
any religious person
being religious.
No, any religious person did not meet the religious belief through rational thought. That's correct.
Well, that's not necessarily true. A lot of people meet it philosophically. That is absolutely not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
true.
Yeah.
Most of the philosophy that actually led to modern atheism wasn't self-religious in origin. It was a
yeah,
gradual unfolding of religious beliefs. Like, for example,
you're nitpicking You're nitpicking.
I'm not nitpicking. You're saying a factually untrue statement.
No, man. I mean, you can think that it's rational to have the belief in supernatural things, but I fundamentally disagree. So you cannot.
Why? The condition of being rational. The condition of a thing. The condition. Well, most of the rationalists
agnostics,
were actually Christian,
bro.
But the condition. Atheist agnostic. The condition of being rational is not that something appears reasonable to you, Jake.
What do you mean? It doesn't have to be reasonable to me. It's not about me.
But you made a statement out of hand. They simply cannot arrive there by rational means.
You cannot.
Have
you cannot
the
rationally
means by which
come
arrived
to.
there?
You
Have
cannot
you encompassed the means? Have you
cannot
encompassed the means
rationally-
by which they arrive there? Of course you can.
No, you cannot rationally come
Of
to a
course you
supernatural
can.
belief. It would be
Of course you can.
fundamentally irrational. Yep.
Of course you can. The supernatural, even as a category, when we're talking, for example, about Cartesian dualism, was arrived at purely rationally. It was arrived
No
at
one
through a
cares
reasoning
about
process.
Cartesian dualism.
You haven't read Descartes.
It doesn't matter if I've read Descartes. You do
Well, it
not
does a
have
little
to
bit
read
because it
Descartes
belies-
to
No,
understand
you
this
don't.
conversation. You could be.
Well, you don't-
You literally
this is
do not
true.
have to read a guy who is dead.
This is true, Jake.
You
But
don't have
this
to.
is true, Jake.
So-
No, but you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The point is not
You
that
appeal
had
to these
re-
things
the
as a
point-
smokescreen
the
for
point-
not engaging with
Jake,
the fucking conversation.
Jake, the point is not that you had to read Descartes to engage with the conversation. The point is that you having not explored any of these things belies.
I
the
actually
ignorance of the
have.
actual
I have
ways.
taken courses in this.
You should get your money back. It belies your ignorance of the ways in which
I
people
apologize
have specifically
for not remembering.
have specifically
You don't need
rationally
to.
approached the issue and have arrived at their conclusions.
It will be
very rationally.
irrational.
What do you mean by irrational?
It won't align with reality. It will be an irrational.
What is- Well, that's just they could say the same thing back to you. In order to say something
They
doesn't align with
can't.
reality, though, suggests that you have actually encompassed the ways in which they had conduits to reality through the rational process.
It's
that
not
they
rational to
skipped
find.
by.
It's not rational to observe the natural universe and insert God into spaces.
Well,
It
if
is
they
not
do
a
so on the
rational
basis-
belief. It is
if they do
something that
so-
you presuppose. It's a
If they do
presuppositional
so,
position.
well, that's
It
not
is-
true.
it is true.
Well, no, because if they do so on the witness, if they do so on the observation of complexity or on reflection, on philosophical reflection, then it's very much rational.
That's not
It's not a
rational.
rationality that you respect, but it is rational. Rational does not mean super double plus good and true, Jake. You can
It's
arrive at a
not
true.
rational,
You can arrive at a true belief irrationally.
I
That's the thing
suppose
that you
that's
can
true,
do.
but that's
You
but
are a
that's not
case
the
in
claim
point.
I'm saying.
You
I'm
have
saying
not-
they're not
you have
thinking
not.
rationally,
No,
so it
but
doesn't
you
matter.
but you were a case in point.
Holy
You've
fucking
clearly
shit.
not taken any of this material seriously, so you haven't investigated any of this rationally yourself.
What
And
material?
yet, nonetheless, you've arrived at a
What
position
material?
at which we probably basically agree. What material?
Yeah,
The immense canon of Western philosophy.
I've read
upon
lots
which
of
we
it,
Still,
yeah.
I'm sure you have, which is almost entirely Christian until very recently, and even in many
That's
cases
correct.
still is. Yes.
Mm-hmm. We agree
I'm
in
sorry.
Christian hegemony. I don't know what.
But we aren't talking about Christian hegemony anymore. We're talking about whether or not Christian hegemony in some way obviates agency. And it clearly doesn't.
It absolutely affects their agency. They make irrational decisions that they wouldn't
So
make
when you're-
without their
so when
religious
you're-
belief.
Right,
It
so when
absolutely
you're-
affects
so
your
when you're-
agency.
so when
if
you're-
you believe,
right,
no, no,
so
hold
when
on, no,
you're-
no. If you
so
think
in
that
your
you're,
judgment-
if you think that
so in your
God spoke
judgment-
to you and told you to kill your kid with a dagger, right, which is a story in the Bible.
There are religious people who don't take that seriously. There are religious, people who take that as a metaphorical or a piece of poetry. There are religious people, for example,
That you can conceive of a more secular religious person is an example in my favor. This is what I'm
the
talking
notion
about.
the notion of the secular itself is downstream from Christian divisions.
It's not downstream
purviews of
from
the
Christian.
magistrate
It's
religion.
only downstream from Christianity.
Well, literally
in
is,
the
though.
history of humanity.
It's actually it's actually downstream from Christian religion and from pagan religion, which is where we get a lot of the Renaissance notions.
There
of
were
Republican
atheists
virtue and so on
before
and so
that.
forth. Well, they weren't called atheists because they, well, with some exceptions, they weren't called atheists because they overtly denied the existence of gods or
well, they wouldn't have enough knowledge.
Principles.
Like, this is so stupid. They wouldn't have enough knowledge to
and one of
make
the
any
reasons
these
why things like
bases.
sorry,
they wouldn't have enough knowledge to make as confident a claim as myself, but they would nonetheless be fundamentally secular.
but you have less knowledge than they do. You don't even have knowledge of them.
What do you mean? Socrates has less knowledge than I do? Of course, of the world, absolutely.
I think Socrates has significantly more knowledge.
You think Socrates knew more about the world than like?
I think Socrates paid more
person?
attention. I think Socrates paid more attention to what the people.
God.
I wasn't really finished speaking. I think Socrates paid more attention to what the people around. I think Socrates paid more attention, and by Socrates I really mean Plato. Paid more attention to what the people around him thought and why than you do. I think in his time and in his context.
I ask Christians why they think things all the time, and it's them who don't understand why.
Plato and Socrates.
Correct.
Yeah, a lot of dumb Christians. No argument for me.
Okay. And atheists, a lot of people don't know why they believe the things they believe. I talk about this conversation. This conversation is normal here.
Mine are usually better, so I'm sorry.
I'm sure. So you agree with me on the things, except in the middles of the conversations that
the wrong part. The wrong part where you
the wrong part
people.
So if you read that whole thread from start to finish, do you have a fundamental disagreement with the full body of text, or only the little tweet in between where I didn't at this point say Western chattel slavery, even though that's what I was talking about above in the thread, or before that at any point with the same people that weren't you.
Well, that
so does that matter at all? Does the context of the conversation matter at all when I'm having it?
Unfortunately, that redescription doesn't wash because you were
okay.
Because you were spinning justifications for why it actually applies to people outside of that category earlier.
So if you want to have a conversation about not like your nitpicks about tweets, but about the subject that I'm talking about, which is that Christianity, which
Christianity in the modern world is not strictly a white religion.
That's correct.
It's an amalgamation.
I never made that.
But not just demographically. Well, that's careful. You have to be careful because if you say that Black Americans are religious because they were indoctrinated into it by slave owners,
they were.
You need to No, not all Black Americans were.
Not all.
You need to be really careful.
Holy fucking shit!
But not just not all.
Really,
not just not all. No, hang on.
Not all. No, man.
Not even not all. We aren't talking about a minority here. If 80%, if 80% of Black Americans trace their descendants, their ancestry to slaves, and 20% don't, that only accounts for those. That only accounts for those.
The 80% is the people I was talking about in the thread.
Jake.
No.
You weren't though.
I literally was.
But you weren't though.
I
was literally about to explain why you weren't. Because you're being very sloppy here. Just shut up for a sec, okay? Just trust me. This isn't your speech.
Sloppy. It's fucking Twitter.
One of the I know you have no standards. So one of the problems
I would really
love to finish this thought.
I know you would.
I don't need you for it.
You would love to.
But
finish
I would like to do it
your
with you
bullet point that you prepared for.
I'm eating actually. I don't have any bullet points.
Oh my god.
Only 80% of them, and I say when only 80% of them trace their ancestry to slavery, that does not mean that 80% of them inherit their Christianity from slavery. This is why the example I brought up was really critical.
Who would they inherit 20%. What is the
sometimes they wouldn't.
Is going to happen.
Sometimes they wouldn't. For example, I'm certain there are some Black people who have gone abroad and were converted there. I'm sure there are some who have been converted elsewhere.
I can also conceive of this. Is this true at large about the problem of Christianity and slavery in America? Is this true about that? No.
The problem of Christianity and slavery, what are you talking about?
So the topic of conversation that
just
this
stop with the act.
Thread,
look. Stop with the screaming act.
The topic of conversation.
It's an act.
It's not an act.
You're like an idiot. Just talk. Just talk like a normal person. You're screaming like a child.
I am talking to you, but you aren't listening.
I'm listening very carefully.
No, you're taking me. No, dude.
You're
not.
You're persistently interjecting like you're not.
Yes,
yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You're not doing these things. That's right.
Do I have a corn costume?
Are you gonna wear it?
No, I don't have one.
Pussy.
Oh shoot! I was gonna eat corn tonight.
Yeah, man. So you're the whole time It's just like bad faith, man. Like, you're not even like...
What do you mean bad faith? I tried to have a conversation with you as soon as we particularize
It's crazy that you feel like you were in good faith from the fucking jump. Like, at any point
can I level with you? I really...
Can I... What...
Yeah?
Okay. So,
I'm listening.
The context of the conversation that I talked to you about already, I am talking about, when we agree, Western chattel slavery...
Uh-huh.
And its intersection with colonialism. And you have
it's not an intersection with colonialism, that's a function of colonialism. Chattel slavery is literally a colonial institution. It doesn't intersect with it.
Sure. And it's at the intersection of slavery and its interaction with religion in that population.
But where lies the intersection in the case of 20%?
Where lies the intersection of what? 20% of modern day non-Christian
Well, you won't know
blacks,
if I can't finish my sentence.
But you've said it a million times. So 20%...
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't say that yet.
You're saying a different 20% statistic this time?
Well, I am, as a matter of fact.
Let's go.
Where is the intersection if we're dealing with 20% of people who don't share that history, who can't share that history because they don't draw their lineage to that?
It's the same one. That's what I thought.
That's not the same point. That's actually pretty critical. The bare fact that you have... for example, a history targeting a specific group in some place does not thereby mean it bleeds over into the psyche and infects their agency when they go into that place. That's not how that works.
It's crazy that you think that's what I'm saying. It's so fucking wild that
you citing colonial violence is not a blanket. You citing colonial violence is not a blank check for you to override the agency of every single person.
What agency am I overriding specifically?
Well, from your perspective, apparently.
From your perspective, what agency am I overriding in someone?
Every single modern American Christian who's non-white. And Muslim,
that's not what agency? That is not an agency. That's a type of people. What agency am I stripping of people or something? What claim do you think I'm making here?
Well, the claim you made is black Americans are religious because they were indoctrinated into it by their slave owners. Historically, this is wrong on two grounds. First of all, a lot of them were actually prevented from being indoctrinated into it by their slave owners.
He can't say it himself. He's trying to say that you're saying black Americans are too stupid to be Christian in modern times, that only white people freely choose to be Christian, but black Americans don't.
Is that the argument you think I'm making?
That's what he's saying you're saying.
Is that the argument you think I'm saying?
If you want to walk it back, be my guest.
If I want to walk what back? Is that the argument you think I'm making?
I don't know. Your wife, whoever's handling this.
What argument do you think I'm making? Does that sound accurate?
Maybe I should argue with her. Huh?
Does that sound accurate? Do you think that I...
Sounds pretty accurate. It seems like you're really
invested. So go ahead and tell me in your words that thing. What she just said. Tell me in your words.
Well, let's look at the indigenous one for a second.
Oh my
We're talking
God,
about
dude.
present day.
Can you just say the fucking claim that you have about me?
The claim I have about you?
I just asked you what she just said. The thing you're trying to insinuate. I'm saying. What do you think I'm trying to say here?
Well, I'm not insinuating. I'm referring directly to your tweet.
Don't talk to my tweet. I'm right in front of you. Talk to me.
The reason why we're having this conversation. The reason why we're having this conversation is
talk to me. Ask me a direct question instead of trying to get me to edit a tweet that I made 2 weeks ago. Talk to me right now in front of you. We're socializing.
Why don't you just redescribe what your position is and we can start from there?
Why don't you... I have described my position.
Then it should be easy.
You cannot reach religious belief through rational means. That's one of them.
You're correct.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have irrational beliefs and make them rationally.
Sorry?
You can't have irrational beliefs and have made them rationally.
What? I mean, first of all, you can.
You can't.
So, for example, because you can go the Kantian route, and you can draw the limits beyond which rationality cannot go, and you can show how for certain, for example, irrational claims, like claims about morality, claims about God or justice or teleology, the point at which these fall off, and so you can put them in their proper place, and so you can still have beliefs about them, and you can still arrive at a conception of where they fit in your overall scheme and overall perception of how things work. without doing so irrationally. And you can even treat them as the irrational and put them in their place as such. There's no contradiction there. That's a almost ubiquitous feature of most modern philosophy.
The second claim is that black slaves were taught Christianity.
Of course they were taught Christianity.
Of course.
Christianity is not native to the place from which they were enslaved.
Yeah, okay. So, and the effect of that is that generationally you will have a high population of black Christians that met that not through critical thinking, not through anything else, but due to the direct effect of their ancestors being enslaved by Christians that indoctrinated them. You agree with that?
They didn't arrive at their beliefs prior to that either rationally, but they still held them. They were still really that, yes?
What do you mean, really that? Why do you keep doing that? What are you asking?
The religious. Are
you asking me if I think that they were genuinely believed it or something?
Well, the claim you make once again is that they are religious, not just that they are Christian. Was that a misstatement? Do you not believe they were religious before they were enslaved?
So religious in this context means Christian when I say that they were indoctrinated into Christianity? Like,
well, then you're running.
We don't have to talk about like, oh, maybe they were TikTok witches. Like, what the fuck?
But you're running.
This is what you do, man. I already said that they were Christian.
Man,
I said that they were Christian, and Christians are religious, are they not? Do I have to say religious Christians every time I say, hey man, are you religious? When I talk to a person, do I have to?
Let me accept that rewrite of the quote.
Jesus.
Even then, you're running into trouble because once again, when you're talking about black churches, you're talking about places that are not simply inheritors of European-style Christianity. You're also talking about places that are
European-style Christianity.
That also inherit.
What?
That also, I wasn't finished speaking. That also inherit the traditional beliefs of the enslaved peoples.
Yep.
So it's not actually the case. And those,
my
in
God,
fact,
I can't believe that some of their culture bled into it. That's so obviously, yep. That's
not just bled in.
Yep.
Not just bled in. We're actually directly combined, and these in turn influenced other churches as well.
What does that have to do with anything?
It means that when you're saying they're religious simply because of slavery, that's simply not true. They're not only just Christian.
I said that they were Christian.
And
then I used the word religious to describe the religious Christians, and you're like, well, he actually means they could have any religious belief at all.
No.
I'll just say Christian from now on because you're so fucking...
for example...
Like, this is not a... this is so fucking unproductive.
For example...
Instead of nitpicking that, you don't have to give me another...
you're boring me now.
You don't have to give me another example. You're not hearing the words I'm saying to you.
I'm hearing all the words you're saying. You're just not saying very much. So, for example,
listening.
For example, the logic that you're deploying, would be, for example, to say that modern Japanese technology in some sense is invalid because it wasn't arrived at in a Japanese way, despite the fact that it was approached.
That's not what I'm saying.
It was approached.
This isn't my claim.
You don't know if it's your claim or not because I haven't.
I literally do know it's my claim because it's not correct.
You literally don't. You literally don't.
I am not. I am not making a.
The analogy I'm trying to make over your babyish. What?
I am not making a claim of like their genuine belief levels. I am not saying that they are more or less purely Christian. I've never said that. Any form of religious belief, even whether it's Christian or you believe some amalgam of Christianity, no matter the degree of it, it's incorrect.
But if a religious belief is appropriated as a technology of resistance, then it absolutely is theirs.
A technology of resistance because Christians had anti-slave movements? Is that what you're saying?
But not
right.
No, I actually wasn't saying that.
Okay, so what are you saying?
Because slaves actually derived a resistance ethic from it. This is one of the reasons, once again, why white slavers did not.
So the claim you're making here is that black people could only come to their liberation through Christianity?
No.
Oh, okay, interesting. Wouldn't that be bad faith if I said that?
I'm saying if they
needed religion to want their own liberation, is what you're saying? They needed the white religion to want their liberation?
I never said that.
So interesting, but it is what you said, though.
I never said
Okay,
that.
So do you think that they would have liberated themselves without Christianity?
I have no idea.
Fascinating, because I fucking do.
We don't know.
I 100% know.
We don't know.
You don't know if black people didn't want to be slaves or not before they were religious? Or, I'm sorry, before they were Christian?
No, you're very stupid. So the point is that if they used Christianity as a tool in history to get out of slavery, we don't know. Well, no, because you're entertaining a counterfactual. We flat out don't know.
Okay, but here we go.
We don't know.
This is a bad... You could do this if you want, but it's really stupid. Go for it.
You're the one who's relying on a counterfactual to establish
Amazing.
your claim. It's
Sure,
not very
man.
strong.
Yeah. So you're saying that Christianity,
I don't think you
which we
understand what I'm
agree,
saying.
Christianity...
I don't think you're following this very carefully at all.
You're saying that Christianity,
I think
the use of Christianity was a tool of liberation for.
I think you're intensely out of your depth, and now you're screaming in order to make up for it because you can't track the argument.
I would love you to make a claim, but when I'm replying to you,
when you're done speaking, do you want me to let you finish speaking, Jake?
You can, yeah. Are you good? So the claim you made is that you don't know if black people would have sought their own liberation without Christianity.
No, we know for a fact they did. We don't know if in the absence of
Christianity, here's the fucking pitfall that you fall into here, which is so fucking stupid.
I don't feel like I've fallen into it.
I know you don't feel like it. So Christianity is the mechanism, is one of the main social mechanisms through which they experience their colonialism. The people that caused slavery upon this population were Christian and were following their manifest destiny in pursuit of these things. Much of this is informed by their Christian belief. You are saying here to give credit to the guy who stopped slapping his wife. This is the same thing.
What?
I know. Christianity.
No, you didn't follow what I was saying
Christianity
at all. You're very dim. No, the point I'm making is that if a black person or a black culture or a black group appropriates a thing that's in their environment, as in the case of Christian religion,
it's crazy to call black slaves adopting Christianity appropriation.
That's not adopt.
That's
no, it's a positive form of appropriation. That's a positive form of appropriation. That's good for them. Well, what do you mean?
What's good for them? Wait, what was good for black slaves there?
No, it is a good thing if they appropriate something that gives them an organizing tool.
I disagree that it was good for them to appropriate.
So you think that when...
I do not think that you need religion to achieve liberation.
Well, but they were religious. They didn't become atheistic. There was no point in between them being
due to religious
of the religion
ubiquity.
of their ancestors.
This is just a product
of the religion.
Of the time. Yeah, I mean...
There was no gap between them being of the religion of their ancestors and of the religion they took on when they came to North America and elsewhere.
Yes.
Yes. So, no, they were not religious due to the ubiquity of Christianity. That's incorrect.
It's crazy that you don't think that African
it's
slaves had wanted their own freedom until they were Christian.
It's crazy that we can't have a back and forth for even a few seconds without you breaking into a screaming fit.
You're giving Christianity the credit for black liberation, and it's wild.
No, not at all. I'm giving black people the credit for black liberation. Some of them were Christians. Some of them used Christianity towards that end.
This is,
true, unfortunately. There's a wonderful book called The Half Has Never Been Told. I highly recommend it.
You ever read Fire and a Cane Break by Laura Wexler? Try that one, too. There you go.
Sweet.
We both got books.
I got more. And I got a duck. Duck Nana beats Corn Cob. Just how it goes.
Man. So... It doesn't sound like you have an understanding of what my position is.
Not anymore, I don't.
Not ever.
You say so, Chief.
I absolutely say so. You literally are coming in here and just making crazy claims, and my whole chat is like, what the fuck is this guy saying? I've literally never said some of this shit in my life.
I've got a smarter chat, so, you know.
I'm sure you do, man.
It's
just like...
To say that Jake was telling someone to kill themselves?
Yeah. Do you walk?
No. You weren't telling someone to kill themselves. What you did was you taunted Rico. Very nice guy, by the way.
Rico's a different
who's disagreeing
person
with you.
Who
was disagreeing with you.
I'm
talking about Rico.
So you want to talk about Rico's divorce?
No, I'm talking about you taunting him for his divorce.
Apparently, I didn't taunt him for his divorce.
Yeah, you did.
I made a common meme. So now you're mad about Rico? Is this what it is? Is it you're just mad about that now?
I am a little mad about Rico, actually.
Okay, you're
apropos of nothing. He was arguing with you respectfully.
So Rico is
and
trans-medicalist pretty often, okay? He has trans-medicalist takes pretty often.
Oh,
and he has had bad takes in my mentions many times. So the context that I have with listen,
so have you. That's why we're here.
Sure, man. The context that I have with this guy is that he's shitty every day, and now he's divorced and he has a blue check mark. A divorced guy with a blue check mark is a common meme. The circumstances of his divorce are irrelevant to me. If he is
they're a little bit relevant.
I think relevant to me.
I think mocking someone's divorce due to a miscarriage is.
Do you think I was mocking his divorce due to a miscarriage?
I don't know. I don't know if you.
So here's the thing I was mocking: his divorce and
blue
blue check mark. I didn't say anything about miscarriage. In fact, he doesn't have a miscarriage. His ex-wife did, and I feel very bad if she wanted to have a child with him, and they wanted to have a kid, and it didn't happen. That sucks. But that has nothing to do with what I said.
This is what's going to be known as the Hunter wager. We'll be back at this in a few years, I'm sure.
What's that mean?
Don't worry about it.
Well, why not? Why don't you just say with your chest what you mean, man?
Nah, I'm good.
Can we mock other people's divorces?
If they're abusive to their partners, I would say so.
So wait. So in the cases where they're not abusive, you can't.
I would not mock someone's divorce. I generally don't mock genuinely bad things happening, like loving relationships breaking down.
How is a divorce a genuinely bad thing? Divorce is never bad. Divorce is almost always a good
divorce
thing.
Is often very bad if it's the consequence of trauma.
Divorce
if it's between no. If there's a strong relationship between people and that breaks down due to
that's
trauma,
not what the majority of divorces are. Just fuck off. That's 20% of divorces.
Do you know that?
How the fuck do I know? The majority of divorces are literally well known.
I'm not against the concept
irreconcilable
of divorce,
differences, and often there's statistics on this. Oftentimes the men do not.
This is
do
why
not
your views
adopt
are
enough of the social.
Yeah, you can't keep up. You can't compete. I'm not against the concept of divorce.
Of course
I don't think
not.
any intelligent
The
person
majority of divorces, however, are happy things because they are met with two people that are incongruous with one another and should not be in a relationship.
I don't know if we necessarily know that.
We do necessarily know that. We actually, have
even in cases.
Well,
no, because even in cases where that is true, there are a lot of cases where that is true.
It's good to not be in a relationship that you don't want to be in.
Because the way in which
100% of the time.
Because the way in which it proceeds legally often causes profound levels of stress on one or both
partners,
often resulting
is
in
irrelevant
financial stress
to a
as well.
divorce being good for you.
That's a very stupid thing to say.
Oh, a divorce might be stressful, but it's better not to be in a relationship
stress
you don't want to be in.
Kills people, Drake. Jake, stress destroys families, destroys relationships, destroys people.
So do you think people seeking divorce are more or less stressed being with their partner or being divorced when they actively seek a divorce?
It's going to be on a case-by-case basis.
You're so stupid. It's intuitively true. Obviously, if they are getting a divorce...
If I'm so stupid, why are you the one relying on what's intuitively true? That's not intelligent.
Mean? It's not... What do you mean? It's so fucking...
Have you listened to yourself? You're like Vosh in a helium balloon.
Vosh in a helium balloon. I mean, it's pretty obvious. The reported...
With an uglier beard.
Amazing. So, are you just mad now? Or is this good? All right.
I'm feeling swell, actually.
Okay. Well, I'm not gonna body shame you. You can.
Good. Don't start that. Not a contest you want to start.
What do you mean? I'm objectively better looking. This is like fucking factually.
But it would hurt my feelings, and you'd lose woke points.
I don't care. I'm objectively better looking. So it doesn't matter. If you want to have a real conversation at some point, and not a semantic argument over tweets,
well,
you have me right in front of your fucking face. Like, we can try,
I wanted to have a real conversation.
I was holy fucking shit.
Against my better judgment.
Unimpressed.
Against my better judgment, the same dumb idiot who told me to go really easy on Haas and have a reasonable conversation with him told me to do so with you, and he's just disappointed as much as I am, I'm sure. Damn shame.
I mean, you didn't even address what I was saying, so it's cool. You just wanted to address what you pretended I was saying. Like, again, it's just wild, man. And then when we talk about you taking me directly out of context, you pivot to something else.
You're relying on
do you want to accept
historical understanding.
So what about do you want to acknowledge just taking me out of context blatantly or no? Do you want to acknowledge it yourself?
I offered to let you redescribe it in real time right now.
Redescribe
Just
it.
tell me what your statement is.
So the guy that you said that I was telling to kill himself, would you like to retract that at all? Just because I want to see.
I can't. Who did I?
That's
say
so
you were trying to kill
fascinating.
themselves?
Yeah, man.
No,
So there was a guy who was like,
been a
"Oh
couple
my
weeks.
God, I would be so embarrassed, I would kill myself." And I said that wouldn't be a good thing. You shouldn't want to do that. And then you tried to paint it as like, "Oh my God, look, he's trying to say."
Oh no, I
self-harm.
see.
Are you going to admit that that was like
you're
bad
confused.
faith and
No,
stupid?
it's come back to me. You're very stupid, so you didn't really catch the nuance there. So the person was saying if I had to wear a corn cob in order
that they
to
would kill
stand
themselves.
out,
And
that
I
they
said
would
that's
kill
not
themselves.
good to do.
And what you said, which is leveraging essentially an implication about their mental health. If you're one embarrassment away from killing yourself or something like that, I imagine if I was one embarrassment away from offing myself or something like that.
No,
that's a level grosser, I think.
No, man. It really isn't. I said it's not good if you want to kill yourself if you are embarrassed. Like, you're actually fucking bad faith, bro. You're actually a fucking shithead, man. Yeah.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Even Vivian told you.
Yeah,
you were
man.
wrong.
Just eat cocks. Just fuck off. Like, can you? This is what I'm saying, man. You can't even.
You should just make your voice squeaky again.
Make your voice squeaky again.
It's a good comeback. Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. Is that it? Is that what you're fucking? You had to schedule this with me? Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, I had other stuff on the way, so.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one, man.
Bye.
See ya.
If I talk like this, am I an intellectual?
Man, okay, look.
If I talk in a very monotone. Oh wait, sorry, it's gotta be nasally. If I talk in a very monotone voice, does that mean that I am automatically correct?
Look, if you can't understand that black people could have secularly liberated themselves from fucking slavery, you're so fucking dead to me. Like, holy shit.